I thought this was interesting too. I know we're getting like really heavy into politics and some people don't like it. I'm going to watch a gaming video here in a minute, but
So a poll has gone viral this week from YouGov showing that support for same-sex marriage has dropped to 54%. I've gotten so many messages to talk about this.
and I saw this. I saw this on Asmon's stream. I've seen a couple people talk about this. I think we even saw this on a shoe video recently. Like everybody is talking about this right now.
You know what? I'm sitting at home, relaxing, listening to Christmas music. Let's discuss. So the short answer for why support for same-sex marriage has gone down is because us normal gays, us common sense gays, are unfortunately becoming guilty by association, okay? We're being lumped in with all the LGBTQIA R2D2 crap, okay? The most fringe and obscene corners of the LGBT agenda, they're the ones that get the most attention online and on television, and unfortunately, those of us who are normal and don't make being gay our entire personality, we are getting lumped in.
I mean, yeah, I don't think that, no, I agree, Leon. I think that he's spitting right now. I think that you have this in every movement. You have a movement that starts out good with really good agendas, and the goal of the group is to push for equality, right? All they want is equal. They just want like equality. They're just pushing to try to like better people's lives. But what ends up happening is the longer these groups exist and the larger they get, more people start attaching themselves to the group. And the more people that attach, the more you start to get fringe ideologies in there. And then these groups become so large with so many ideologies in them that they start pushing like a very disjointed message. And that disjointed message stops being good for the whole group, and it is only good for the fringe. And the fringe knew that those ideas would not gain traction on their own. So that is why they went to a larger group to attach themselves.
The fireplace is crackling, okay? The fireplace agrees with me right now, but let me tell you this. I first started seeing data that showed support for same-sex marriage going down in 2023. Now, when we look back, what happened in 2023? Okay, there was a huge push of LGBT propaganda and woke ideology, okay? You had a big push for men and women's sports. You had Dylan Mulvaney with the Bud Light scandal. You had all of this stuff being pushed into the mainstream. And what happens when you shove something in people's faces over and over? They're gonna put their backs against the wall and say, whoa, 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 wait a minute, we're sick of it.
And he's true. That's a big thing, right? Like people don't care what other people do as long as you're not forcing people to deal with it or confront it or acknowledge it, right? So if it's just, hey, we just want like gay marriage and whatever, and everybody's like, that's fine, we don't care. Whatever you want to do in your own room, like you do it, it's fine. But the more you just push an agenda and push like the identity politics out there, the more you start to get in people's faces, and people don't want to see it.
Before 2022, 2023, we really did not discuss men and women's sports. It was not a scandal, but then there was a huge push for men to be in women's locker rooms and to be on their sports teams, and girls, some of them like Peyton McNabb, were getting brain damage because they were forced to compete against men. You then had children's shows on Netflix coming out and pushing gender and trans ideology onto these young boys and girls, saying you might be born in the wrong body. We never used to do that, okay? The LGBT agenda used to be about equal rights. We want equal rights. We want gay marriage. That's all we want. Well, in 2015, via the Supreme Court Obergefell decision, we got gay marriage. Turns out that wasn't enough for some of these far left liberals.
And that's what happens when you take a group, right, that had a clear-cut agenda and then allow them to push for that agenda. And then once they get it, and once people see that this group is able to affect policy and enact change, then other more fringe groups try to attach to that group and they say, hey, we're similar, so let us in. But the problem is they were never similar. They just wanted to use you as a platform to springboard off of. And that is what happened, right?
Suddenly it went from we want equal rights to we want special treatment, okay? We want to be able to identify as a girl tomorrow and have carte blanche and entree into women's sports. No, 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 you can't. And you can't shove stuff onto children either. When you think about it and you look...
And I think like to his point, a lot of people, as soon as you start involving children, was a big turning point. And then because those types of people had attached themselves to their type of movement, now their type of movement is sort of catching strays, even though they didn't have anything to do with it, and they have nothing to do with it, right?
Look back now, we got gay marriage in the summer of 2015. 2 years later, in 2017, what did National Geographic do? They put a young child, a boy kind of turning into a girl on the cover, and they called it a gender revolution because the grift has to continue. There's always a new grift and there's always a new scam. And I think a lot of gay people on the left and a lot of LGBTQ, whatever you want to be, they want to find new ways to play the victim. And that's why we're seeing the support going down. Okay, Americans didn't just wake up and say, we hate gay people suddenly. Most people don't care what we do behind closed doors. Okay?
Absolutely.
They just don't want everything shoved in their faces all the time, and they don't want it shoved onto children. They don't want men and women's sports. And so when you add all that insanity into the mix, it's not a shock to see that support for same-sex marriage is going down in some of these polls.
Yeah, it literally, what is happening is they are getting hit with hate that has nothing to do with them and has everything to do with other people who have allied with them. But because of that, they're catching a bunch of grief for it, right? It's more the fault of the media. I think that it's dumb argument to generalize it. It's one of those things where I think that because fringe elements have attached themselves to you and you have not outright pushed back on it, that you then are forced to wear that scarlet letter, right? And that's why I think like a video like this, where he's kind of pushing back on certain things, is good for his part of the movement. Because if you do not push back on fringe elements of your movement, then you are effectively adopting their viewpoint by complacency. And that is what happens. And that's how a lot of people will see like the T in the LGBT, and then because there are weirdos that decide to use it as like a Trojan horse to do something bad, everybody gets labeled with it. Yeah, weakens your argument because it's not true. No, and it absolutely isn't, Leon. But I think that is where the problem comes. And that is where people start to just find that ideology. And then they just kind of keep harping on it until people pay attention, right? And that's where the division happens because we stop talking to each other. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, like, I saw part of this video earlier and I was like, this dude is literally cooking. This dude is cooking.
The last thing I'll say is this, and I've said this before on television, I know it went viral a few months ago, but I don't really associate with the LGBT community, okay? I'm not part of anyone's community. I'm a grown-ass man. I'm an individual who happens to be gay. I'm very busy with my life, with family, with friends, with work. I don't need to sit around and sing Kumbaya and braid anybody's hair. And a lot of these gays, they try to do this fear-mongering. They said if President Trump gets back into office, if he wins, we're gonna lose gay marriage. Well, all of those liberal gays, they look like idiots, okay? I don't know if it's from bumping their heads on the headboard. I don't know if it's from a lack of oxygen when they're on their knees breathing through their noses. But let me tell you, okay? The Supreme Court controls that. President Trump does not want to take away gay marriage. In fact, he's the only president, I think the first president, who went to the White House in 2017 supporting gay marriage. Go look at Barack Obama and Joe Biden in 2008. Did they really support gay marriage? No, they didn't. But the liberals, they want to rewrite history and paint Republicans as these small-minded, closed, conservative weirdos who don't support them, and that's not the truth.
Like I said, man, this man is literally spitting facts. And this is another one where even if you are not part of a community, like so he said he's not even really part of the movement, but because he's gay and because gay is a marginalized group, people automatically associate him with the movement, and then the fringe part of the movement gets associated with the movement. And the next thing you know, he's associated with the fringe group that he doesn't even want to be associated with just because he's gay and he's part of a minority. And honestly, I would be happier if we started hearing more from moderates across the board. And I think that there's been an extreme to one side, and now you're getting a pushback against like extreme wokeness. And I think as we get pushbacks from the other side, hopefully there's going to be a level where moderates and people who have opinions in the middle can actually speak up and try to be a little bit sane. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I do think it's nice to see.
Most Republicans and conservatives have been very open to me and my friends. They just want to pay their bills and live their lives, and they're tired of having everything
gets lumped in.
their
Absolutely.
faces. Okay, be gay, live your life, be gay, but stop always playing the victim card. Stop pushing trans and gender ideology onto kids, and everything will be okay. All right, I love you guys. Thanks for liking and following. Drop a comment. Tell me what you think about this topic. I always read everything you guys have to say. I welcome folks who agree with me, disagree with me. It's come one, come all.
I saw this on Twitter. And I was like, you know what? I actually thought this was a really good video, and I wanted to look at it and talk about it. I think he did a good job of really trying to show things from the perspective that I think most people have in his position. It's really easy to start to have everything be drowned out by the extreme groups or by the extreme members in every group. And I think your average American really isn't that extreme. But you don't hear from your average American or your average member of like a minority or a group or a disassociated or disenfranchised group. You only really tend to hear from like the most vocal ones. So I think this was actually a really, really, really good clip and brought up some really good conversation, right? He nailed his points and left no room for argument. I think so.